Arbel Yehud and Gadi Moses are home. They survived 482 days in Hamas captivity in Gaza. 5 Thai nationals were released after 482 days in Hamas captivity in Gaza. Yes, Hamas held people from Thailand in its underground terror dungeons. This is the big picture that I want everyone to understand. There won't be peace in Gaza until Gaza is de-radicalized. The problem in Gaza is greater than the tens of thousands of armed Hamas terrorists there. The problem in Gaza is the prevailing ethos in Palestinian society which says that Israel must be destroyed. On October 7th, we saw this ethos in practice. In addition to the 3,000 Hamas terrorists who invaded Israel from Gaza on October 7th, thousands more civilians from Gaza followed Hamas into Israel and carried out barbaric atrocities, and thousands more civilians in Gaza celebrated in the streets as Hamas terrorists returned with hostages. A majority of Palestinians thought that the October 7th massacre was a good idea, according to the leading Palestinian pollster Khalil Shikaki. Hamas took the hostages and held them in tunnels, but some hostages were held in civilian homes. In some cases, civilians in Gaza kept hostages as slaves. Gazan society is a sick society. The children of Gaza will not have a better future as long as they are governed by the Hamas terrorist army and raised by parents and teachers who support war against Israel until Israel is destroyed. There is some good news. When the clock struck midnight last night, UNRWA was banned from Israel. According to Israeli law, the Israeli military and Israeli government agencies are now banned from cooperating with UNRWA. The law was passed in the Israeli parliament 90 days ago, and it was meant to come into effect 90 days after its passage. That time is now. The reason for the ban is that UNRWA is a Hamas front organization. UNRWA guys and Hamas guys are the same guys. Among the Hamas terrorists who invaded Israel on October 7th were UNRWA employees. Most of the Hamas terrorists who participated in the October 7th massacre were educated in UNRWA schools. Not one UNRWA teacher has expressed shame. UNRWA needs to be exposed, shamed, drained of its resources, and dismantled. I'd be happy to take a few questions from some of you who are watching live on our different social media platforms. I know we have people on Instagram, on X, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. We'll take a few, and then it's back to work.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Our first question comes from Adam on Instagram. We all know that Gazan society must be de-radicalized, but how and by whom? Israel can't seem to rely on the world to do so, so who's going to do it and how will we implement this?
It's a great question. First, I think that needs to be the starting point, is that Gazan society must be de-radicalized. And until that happens, nothing else should be happening. For example, the reconstruction of Gaza. There are many people whose homes were destroyed in the war because Hamas was using those homes as military positions against Israel for the past 15 months. Those homes are destroyed. There are calls to rebuild what was destroyed. I don't think anything should be rebuilt in Gaza until, first of all of the hostages are home and Hamas is no longer the government of Gaza, because if Hamas is the government, then we're going to see more wars. So while it may feel difficult as an outsider looking in to say, how is it possible to de-radicalize? Well, we should start with some clear policies that unless Gaza is de-radicalized, there's going to be no help from the international community in rebuilding Gaza, and the effects of the radicalization will be their problem and not ours.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Marjorie on Instagram. I've read that the prisoners won't be released today due to the horrific way that the hostages were released. Is this true? And if so, will Hamas be held accountable for this disgusting display?
I haven't seen this latest update, but what I understand is that for every Israeli female soldier that is being released as part of this hostage ransom payment, 50 Palestinian terrorists are being released from Israeli prisons. Convicted Palestinian terrorists are being released. So in exchange for the 4 Israeli female soldiers who were released a number of days ago, 200 Palestinian terrorists were released. 1 Israeli soldier was released today, so that's 50 for this soldier. We also saw a 2 Israeli civilians released today. There will be a ransom paid for them, and it's not clear what was paid in exchange for the release of the Thai citizens who Hamas has been holding since October 7th, 2023. Now, as far as specifically, will there be kind of consequences for the way that Hamas releases the terrorists, for the way that Hamas parades people and takes them through a mob and brings them into the Red Cross vehicle and puts on this spectacle for Al Jazeera? There's nothing in the deal that I have seen in terms of the text that's been released that says that Hamas is not allowed to do this. So the simple answer is I don't think there will be consequences. I think this will continue. That's the deal. That's what Israel has agreed to for phase 1, and we'll have to see what happens with phase 2.
Thank you. Our next question comes from YouTube. Is there any indication that world leaders will consider pulling funding from the Red Cross in response to their cooperation with this terrorist activity?
Thank you for watching from YouTube, and also thank you for the question about the Red Cross. I think the Red Cross is a very well-funded organization headquartered in Switzerland. It has branches all around the world. It's funded by individual donations. There may be states that give to the Red Cross. I don't think that the people who are the most committed donors to the Red Cross are at all embarrassed by the behavior of the Red Cross, and that's a good reason to say I don't think the behavior of the Red Cross will change. What you're referring to is the way that the Red Cross seems to be a willing and eager participant in every little element of the way that the hostages are released. It is quite possible for the Red Cross to just drive its vehicles into Gaza, wait for the hostages to be transferred into the vehicles, but instead we see the Red Cross parking exactly in the place in the way that Hamas wants them to. The Red Cross officials are going on stage and signing fake documents about how the hostages are being released. It's really quite a spectacle. The end result is that the hostages are home and that they're reunited with their families. Right now, from what I've heard, neither side is proposing any other mediator between Hamas and Israel besides the Red Cross, so it seems like we're left with them.
Thank you. This is our final question. Debbie on Instagram is asking, can you please speak about the rumors regarding Sinwar's brother and his recruiting and regrouping of Hamas?
I don't know specifically about rumors, but what I can tell you is that it appears that Yahya Sinwar's brother, Mohammed Sinwar, is the head of Hamas in Gaza. And he is the one calling the shots about the hostage release, about the deployment of Hamas forces, accepting the ransom payment that Israel was willing to give in exchange for the prisoners. So he seems to be there and be in control. And it makes total sense. It makes total sense that Hamas continues to recruit. Much of the population of Gaza is under 18. I am sure that Hamas is recruiting 15, 16, 17-year-old boys to become Hamas terrorists. There is still a significant portion of the society in Gaza that thinks that what Hamas is doing is great, and they want to be a part of it. At the same time, Hamas is the government of Gaza, and as the government of Gaza, it means that Hamas has full control over the aid, the food, the supplies that are coming in. Hamas takes them first, and when Hamas distributes them, Hamas taxes the distribution of the food and supplies in Gaza. What does Hamas do with that tax money? It uses that money to pay new recruits. So until Hamas is no longer the government of Gaza, doesn't matter if it's this Sinwar or that Sinwar or a different Hamas guy, Hamas cannot be the government of Gaza, and as long as Hamas is the government of Gaza, Hamas is going to recruit more fighters for future wars. Thanks for that question, for watching on Instagram, for watching on YouTube, Facebook, and so on. You can continue to engage with me on my own platforms. Ruby Guides Israel on Instagram, RUBY Guides Israel if you're watching there. Hello and thank you. I'm also on X and the other platforms as well. We're going to be keeping a close eye on the news today. It's a very dramatic day, and we will be back at 3 p.m. on Sunday, Israel time. That's 8 a.m. Eastern for our live daily briefing. Until then, be well and have a wonderful day.